Tonight, the workshop is about Chinese brush painting. And I was inspired to do this workshop from a new book that I bought. It's called Introduction to Chinese Brush Painting. And I have many Chinese brush painting books. I grew up in Taiwan and Korea. And so I've had a Chinese brush like this in my hand ever since I was a little kid. And I really enjoy painting with the Asian brushes in the Asian style for the way you don't hold the brush like we do in America. You hold it a little bit differently like this, and you're going up and down on an angle, but see the grip? It's a little bit different. And I've been doing that since I was a little kid. I've had those kind of brushes in my hand. And hey there, Bilal. Welcome in over on YouTube. Thank you. Thank you. And so, as I say, I have many brush painting books, the Asian brush painting, but I just received this book and I really am enjoying it. So, it's Chinese brush painting, and the author is Danny Hanlin Chen. Now, I will be putting links to any of the books that I show you in the description of the video on YouTube later tonight after the workshop is over. I go back in and I add that. Hey there, Dr. Batman, welcome in over on Whatnot. Tonight I'm talking about Chinese brush painting. So I have many different types of Chinese brushes here that we're going to play around with, and some paints. Let me see. This is the project that I did for the workshop here. Oops. So you see the fun shrimps and the little crab at the bottom. These are pieces that I did based on this book, Chinese Brush Painting. I have many, 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 many other paintings that are, hey, flower gazer, welcome in. I have many other paintings that are done with the Asian brushes. That I will show later after the workshop. But there are some other books that I like to use also as my inspiration. I enjoyed the undersea creatures that were in this book, Chinese brush painting. Um, but I have a couple of other brush painting books. So this one right here, Chinese brush. And this is Lucy Lan, is it? Let me see. Lucy Wang. Lucy Wang. And don't worry, I will have a link to it in the description of the video. This is a Walter Foster book. Do you see up here? It says that, right? No, sorry, over here. Walter Foster. And I love the Walter Foster books because they do such a good job of showing you the basics. So if you're new to Chinese brush painting, I definitely recommend a book like this. And I'll have a link to it in the description of the video by tomorrow. But it's Chinese brush. What does it say? Learn how to paint step by step, which is so true because the Walter Foster books take you stroke by stroke right through the process of creating a painting like this. Uh, so I refer back to this book all the time just for the basics for my warm-ups. Um, but this Chinese introduction, the one that is the inspiration for tonight's class, this Chinese introduction to Chinese brush painting is a little bit more advanced. He does show you in the book, like for instance, to do the shrimp. So he shows you here the elements of the shrimp, and then here are the steps for doing the shrimp. And so he does show you like a good example of his shrimp and then the different steps that he uses to get there here and here, which is great. So we're going to be doing that in a little bit when we go over top of the table. And then another book that I absolutely adore, and I did a class before. So if you're on YouTube, you can find it under my live tab. Just search through. And I did a Chinese, again, an Asian brush painting, and it was fish. So we did some goldfish, we did the koi. I might not have shown the koi. I think I just showed how to do the goldfish during the workshop, but that book is amazing. So when I sit down to paint with Asian brushes, these are the kind of things, these are the warm ups. See, where I'm just using some inexpensive Chinese paper or Japanese paper, rice paper, and just like that's a warm up, right? Because I'm like, ooh, that was not good. But it's a warm up, right? You need to get warmed up. Thank you very much. CKT over on YouTube said, I like it. Um, Here's a warm up. But sometimes you do your warm up and you say, oh, I like that. Okay, I'm going to put this rice paper. I take the rice paper painting and I mount it with Japanese rice paste, starch paste, onto a backing paper. Like I like to use bamboo paper, and then that makes it stiffer and it makes it easier to fit into a mat. So I'm like, oh, I like that. Okay, so I will hang on to that. Here's some more rice paper. This is another warm up. I love to do the orchids as a warm up. And actually, in this little book here, that is the impetus for today's workshop, the Introduction to Chinese Brush Painting, the very first thing that he shows you in here is some of the strokes for doing an orchid. And then he'll actually, he starts you off with orchids. See there? So first he shows you how to do it a black orchid, and then he shows you how to do some colored orchids. So that's where this was a colored version that I did, one like that. And then this is another colored version that I did, right? Off of his, using his book uh as the guide for doing it. So I did sign it. I can sell this piece, even though the image is basically out of his book because I hand painted this, but I would not publish this in a book because he published it in his book. Danny did, and it's his inspiration, right? It's his artwork. Um, and here's one that I did on watercolor paper. So I'm going to show you tonight doing it on watercolor paper, doing this Asian brush painting, essentially the same image, watercolor paper and rice paper. You see there? So you can do the same kind of work, the same brushes, the same paints on both. So if you don't have rice paper, it's not a problem. Just do it on your watercolor paper, okay? That is fine. If you weren't here earlier, this is watercolor paper, and this is the crab and the shrimp. Oops, let's do it this way. There we go. The crab and the shrimp that I painted based on the book Introduction to Chinese Brush Painting. This one right here, like that. Okay, so so much fun. Now, some of the supplies that we are going to be using tonight. This author, Danny, specifically says to use Chinese paints, Chinese watercolors. So there are regular watercolors and then there are Chinese watercolors. The Chinese watercolors, and in some cases also Japanese watercolors, the Japanese and the Chinese watercolors have something in them. It's a glue in them. And what that does is it binds to the rice paper so that after the rice paper painting, like this one is dry, then I can mount it using the starch paste, which is a water-based paste, and then theoretically, this paint will not move. It will not reactivate. So if you use regular watercolors, you know that regular watercolors, if you get them wet again, what's going to happen? They're going to reactivate. And we don't want that when we're doing the Chinese painting on rice paper. If you're going to use rice paper, don't worry about it if you're on watercolor paper. Because you're not going to need to remount the watercolor paper. It's just if you're working on rice paper and you want to mount this, you're like, oh, I like that one. I want to mount it, then you need to have paints that are not going to reactivate easily when you're mounting them. Okay, you can use a dry mount spray on the back of this instead if you want to, and that can avoid using any water-based media if you prefer that. But I'm going to show you the paints that are recommended by Danny in his book, so that you know which paint to get. And of course, I will have a link to it in the description of the video. So, um, the paper I was showing you is an Asian rice paper. So, here, for instance, this is what I call practice paper. So you see here Oriental rice paper, but this is a thinner paper. Sometimes they call it Xuan paper, Xuan. But I think I have a piece out already here. Let me show. Well, this is the one that I was practicing on initially, right? And so it's a very thin practice rice paper. Then once you've used, once you're comfortable with your subject, because as you can see, I was playing around. You have to get warmed up. Like, how much water do I use with my particular brush? Hey, watercolor, etc. Welcome in, welcome in. Um, so that is the practice paper here, the thinner paper. And you'll know it's the practice paper because, like, this is 100 sheets, and it won't cost you a whole lot. So that's my practice paper, and which is great. And then once I'm ready to paint a final painting, then I will get out my Yasutomo sketch pad. This is called Hosho, Hosho, Hosho paper. This is a Japanese paper. Yasutomo is a Japanese company. And this is what I use for sumie painting and Chinese brush painting because it's like twice as thick as the practice rice paper. So let me show you. This is a piece. This is still practice on the Hosho paper, but the paper's way thicker. Okay. And so it's going to hold the paint a little bit differently. And it's also perfect. It has the right thickness for you to mount this then onto um, a thicker paper or a board for putting into a frame. Okay. But this is, oof, I love this paper. I go through lots of this paper. I go through lots of all my paper. I can tell you that right now. Hold on. I'm going to pull out one of the practice sheets and have that available for me in a little bit. And like I said, don't worry about it. The products like the papers and the brushes and stuff, I'll have links to it in the description of the video on YouTube for you tomorrow. After the workshop, I'll go back in and I'll type that all in for you. Okay. All right. So that was the paper. Then the brushes are Asian brushes like this. And the brush that I noticed that Danny uses in his book here, Chinese Brush Intro to Chinese Brush Painting, he uses a little one for a lot of his work. So this is a little one. Do you see how small that is? And let me put some water on it. Now you can use regular watercolor brushes. Do not worry. You can make it work with regular watercolor brushes if you don't have Asian brushes. I'll have a link to some Asian brushes in the description of the video tomorrow if you're interested in checking them out. But this is a typical, like, I'm just going to sit there and do small calligraphy. And I'm going to do these paintings like what we're doing tonight. This is a great size, which is a smaller brush. And so this kind of brush for broader strokes, you can use this kind of brush. The interesting thing is these Asian brushes are very, you see how fluffy it is on the top? Woo, this one's actually losing hair because it's a new one. Super fluffy. You see how this one's pointed? That's because you just have to get it wet. And once you get it wet, then let me show you. I'm just going to wick off a little bit of the water like this, but you see how it gets pointy like that? Woo! Yeah. So it'll get pointy once it gets wet. All right. The nice thing is these Asian brushes have a big belly. You see the belly down here. So they hold a lot of water. So besides the Asian brushes that are like this, like I said, they're fluffy until you get them wet and then they're pointy. There's another type of brush called a quill brush, Quill. Quill brushes are watercolor. Oh, thank you. Quill brushes are watercolor brushes. They're either, usually they're squirrel hair or they're synthetic squirrel hair. So this is what one looks like. See how it's fluffy? Fluffy. This is a natural, this one happens to be a natural hair, but even if it's a synthetic hair, you're best off using your quill brushes just for your watercolors or for inks. These are too soft. I would not use these for acrylics or oil paints, okay? These should be reserved for your watercolors and your inks. Um, but see how it's fluffy and it has a big belly here? This is the quill brush. Now I'm going to get it wet again, so you're going to see a similar way that whoop, it comes right to a point. Love quill brushes. Um, oh my goodness, I'm just going to get a little bit of the water out of it. Otherwise, it's going to drip everywhere. But you see how it comes to a point right there? Woohoo! So same, it acts the same way as the Asian brushes do. So if you don't have any Asian brushes or you don't want to buy Asian brushes in particular, you may, if you do paint a lot of watercolor, consider getting a couple of quill brushes, and the quill brushes will fill the same bill as the Asian brushes. Okay. So let me, oh, and the other brushes that I use a lot and will also work for this technique, and I've recommended them for years. This is the Princeton Velvet Touch watercolor brush. It's a synthetic hair here. It's just, you see how, yes, it comes to a point, but it doesn't quite have the same volume in the belly. You see that? So it doesn't quite hold the same amount of water as a quill brush or the Asian brushes do. So that's the difference there between the brushes. But I do like, this one is the Princeton Velvet Touch number 2. You see the tiny little top there? So I used this for the details here, like the eyes. You see the little eyes on the shrimp and the eyes on the crab. I wanted a real small brush, so I used this Princeton Velvet Touch round number 2, and that worked fine. So, you know, ah, I have lots of brushes, y'all. But I will recommend a set of Asian brushes to you um, in the description of the video for tomorrow. So that is brushes. Another thing that, before I show you the paint, another thing that we're going to need is when you're painting on rice paper. You see how translucent the rice paper is? The paint can come through it if you use a lot of water. It's such a trick to get like the water just right. That's why I always have to do a bunch of practice sheets at a time, because usually I start out with too much water on my brush. So this, you want to put this paper on top of a piece of felt. So here's a piece of felt. This is calligraphy felt. It's a thing. So um, you would put the paper on top of the felt, and that way if any of the paint goes through, it goes through onto a black or a gray felt. Okay. And that protects your work surface, because otherwise you're going to end up with dots of paint all over your whatever surface you're painting on. It helps a lot. It also helps to wick away some of the water if you put too much water in it. All right. So let's talk next about the paint. Woohoo. So this is what you might think that you want to buy. It says Marie's, and then it says Marie's watercolor, and it is Chinese watercolor. And you're like, okay, I got my Chinese watercolor. It's not the same. I'm going to show you another Marie's, which is the correct Marie's. Um, So I wanted to make you aware that Marie's has several different types of watercolor or water-based paints. And in this particular case, this one is Marie's watercolor paints. So Marie's watercolor paints will re-wet if you use them on the rice paper and you like your painting and you want to mount your painting. If you're using the paste like I do, which is a water-based paste, to mount it onto a thicker paper, this may run, this paint may reactivate, it may get wet again. Okay. So there's another kind of paint that is Marie's, but it is called Chinese painting color. Same brand. Okay. But I'm going to show you the swatches between the two so you can see the difference. And this Chinese painting color is the one that you want to use for the rice paper. Okay. This is the best one to use for the rice paper. I also have the Marie's gouache, and I haven't tried it yet. So I don't know whether that, you know, what the properties of that are. Um, but yes, this is the one. This is the one we want to use right here. I got the set of 18. They have, a set of 12 and a set of what, 36, I think, as well. But I got the set of 18. Let me show you here what the difference is in the colors. So I'm going to start by showing you the watercolors. So this is my painter's color diary. Let me show you the cover of it. This is Painter's Color Diary. You can either pick one up at Jerry's Artorama or you can order them online, and I will have a link to it. But it's the Painter's Color Diary. And this one is made with watercolor paper, which is awesome. So this is the Marie's watercolor. And you're going to notice the colors are quite bright, very transparent here. Okay. Beautiful. Now, the cool thing about the painter's color diary is I can pop this page out. So, two things. One is you can remove these pages so that if you wanted to take that page with you to your painting desk or outside or something like that, you can. The other thing is that the pages have this really nice interleaving glassine in between them to protect the pages. That's also awesome. But right here, look, you can just pop these out. You see that? Is that cool? This is awesome. So I wanted to do that so I could kind of show you these next to each other. Here is the Chinese painting color, the one that we're going to use. So here's the Chinese painting color. And what you'll notice is that the color is a little bit more diffused. It's not quite as bright and punchy. Still bright, still beautiful, but just not quite as. Let me do this. Let's see. Does that work? Yeah. Not exactly the same as the colors here, which are the Marie's watercolors. Okay. So I wanted you to know there is a difference between the two sets and the kind of colors that you get. And the ones in the brown box, the Chinese painting color, those are the ones that we want. Let me just pop this one back in here so it doesn't get lost. And I'll put that back in the book later. The cool thing is you can change the pages around if you want them to be in different places in your book. Okay, so that was the paints. Now, noticed here the paints are in tubes, right? But you need to paint with them. So you're going to have to put them somewhere. Oh, by the way, the Chinese painting, the Marie's Chinese painting paints don't have the names on in English. So what you have to do here is it has a number, okay, and the name in Chinese. So what you do is they put on the inside of the lid here, they put the color names or the color numbers and the color name. So if you're interested in the color name, oh, excuse me, woo, then you'll have the color name, which is what I wanted. So right now, I'm going to take the Marie's regular watercolor and I'm going to set this aside. Beautiful colors, works great, just not what we're looking for tonight with the Chinese brush painting. Okay. So that's going to be set aside and we're going to focus on this one with the horsey, the one with the horse on it. Okay. And then because these are in tubes, you have to have some place to put them in order to paint with, right? You got to squeeze some of the paint out. So um, I don't have any pans. Like usually with watercolor, you can take a half pan or a full pan and you can fill it with paint, let it dry, and then paint with it. Um, for the Asian paints, I don't do that. I like to use them juicy right out of the tube. So there are two kinds of palettes that I like to use. You'll see this one. This is a butcher tray. Don't worry, I'll have a link to it in the description of the video on YouTube for you. And so this is a little enamel butcher tray. And you can already see I've had some of the black paint in there to use. And this works out I have 3 of these, but the other 2 have lots of paint in them right now. Always happens. All my palettes have lots of paint except this one. This is a Corel dish. And so it's like your right. This was my mother's dish. It's what she would serve like cheese and crackers and stuff like that on. It's called a rectangular serving tray. I'll have a link to them in the description of the video. I have, I think, 4 of them right now. And if you'll notice, wide open area here, right? Especially if you're using Asian brushes. That's why Japanese watercolors come in big flat pans because you need to be able to get the top of that brush in there, right? If you're working with a regular watercolor pan, like a travel set, they're tiny like this, so it's hard to get your whole brush in there. So I like using a tray like this because I have lots of area to put my paint around the edges and then a big mixing area, and it takes the big brushes no problem at all. So this is my favorite. Right now I have another one of these in my other area of the studio and it has lots of paint in it. So I was like, dang it, I have to clean one. So I have a clean one for tonight's show, right? I did want to show you, like I was saying, this is a big brush, right? Actually, I have way bigger Asian brushes. Here's one of them right here. So there's one right there. And this is not the biggest one I have because when I do like 4 or 5 foot size paintings and I'm using my whole arm to do the painting, then I need much larger um, Asian paintbrushes. And so I have, I think, 2 more sizes up than this one right here. But I just wanted to bring this one in so I could show you, you know, "See, we're working with brushes like this tonight, but I also have the big honkers like that for when I do big pieces." All right. Let's see. Ooh, I have to move some of these palette knives out of the way. Last week's workshop was palette knife painting. So I'm going to move those out of the way. Another thing that I have on my desk that I like to use when I'm watercolor painting in particular is these are little water containers. It's a collapsible water container from Faber-Castell. I love these because you see the scallop edge on the top here. It's perfect for just setting your brush like that when you're painting. So I usually have 2 or 3 brushes going in different sizes while I'm painting. And so you can put multiple brushes on the top here and keep dipping in to get your water. These are awesome. And whenever I travel, I just, with no water in it, I just squish it down, throw it in my purse. When I get where I'm going or when I'm on the airplane, I just pop it up like this, put some water in it, and away I go. So right now on my desk here, I have 2 of them because I have 2 desks right now that I'm painting at. And so normally one lives out on the other table, but since we're doing watercolor tonight, I'm like, no, 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 I need them both in here. So I definitely suggest getting them in multiples. Okay. So let me see if there's anything else I need to tell you about. I think that is it. We're gonna what we're gonna do, we're gonna go over top of the table and I'm gonna start with we're gonna start with some warm-ups on the cheapest rice paper. Then we're going to move to the thicker rice paper, the Hosho paper, and then we'll go to watercolor paper. So you can kind of see the difference and the progression. Um, and like I said, you can absolutely do these same techniques on watercolor paper. So don't worry about that. If all you have at home is regular regular watercolors and watercolor paper, regular watercolor brushes, that's fine. You'll still be able to follow along. Okay. All right. So let's start. We're going to start with the black because I think the best way to warm up is to start with the black paint. So we're actually going to use and almost every Chinese painting book that I have, some Chinese painting books that I have, the whole thing is black paint. But usually when you start with a Chinese painting book like this, they start you off with a black paint. See there? Just the ink. Now, what he's showing in the book here, again, it's Introduction to Chinese Brush Painting. He's showing using your ink block and your grinding stone, the traditional Chinese. I have several ink blocks, and sometimes if I'm just going to mark, make, and practice in black, that's what I'll do. I'll get out my stone and my grinder because you can get the light gray all the way up to the dense black. Okay. But for right now, we're just going to use the paints, the tube of paint. So this was the watercolor. I actually want to get, oops, let's see, I don't want the watercolor one. I want the Chinese brush for right now. So let's go with, um, these are some of my favorites, these long ones right here. Oh, love those. But these are the kind that you can get in a Blix or a Jerry's right here. You know, your typical Chinese watercolor brush, and it'll work just fine. So why don't we start with this one for just giggles. Here we go. Let me make sure y'all can see that I'm dipping it in the water there. And then I do that to just make the shape the way I want it. Okay. So let's, what I wanted to do is I want to start with getting this black out of here because this is the regular black and not the Chinese paint black. So the beauty of watercolor is you can just reactivate it with water, right? Ah, love that. Okay, there we go. There's a little bit of it left in there, so that's fine. I'll just work on the other side of this over here. So remember, there's the Marie's watercolor. That's what this black is. And then there's the Marie's Chinese watercolor. And the Chinese watercolor is the one that you want to use on the rice paper. Okay. So we're going to take the black color here and I'll just put it over here. Woo! It is thick, y'all, thick. So it is, yeah, it's similar to what they use when they grind. Just going to set these aside for right now. We will be getting back to them, no doubt, very soon. And let's get ourselves, first of all, we need our um, we need our felt, right? Because we're going to be working on rice paper. So, oh, there's dog hair. Yeah, typical, right? Let me just move these over just a little bit like that. There we go. So there we go. Nice piece of felt. I'll put this up here so you can see it. Just making sure I'm looking on the camera to be sure you can see everything there. Okay, so what we're going to use right now is the regular Juan paper for warm-ups. The Juan paper that I'm using right now is, well, all the rice paper is going to have two sides to it. There's a smooth side and there is a rough side. So it's up to you which side you paint on. Most of the time, it's recommended that you paint on the smooth side. But if you like painting where you get what's called a broken line, meaning that the line is not like a perfect line, that it's all broken up, then try the rough side. It actually looks very cool when you use the rough side. I use the rough side half the time and I use the smooth side half the time. So it's up to you, really. It's up to your personal preference, what it is, which side you use. But you know, when you practice, try the different ones. Now, one of the things that I like to do when I'm doing the Asian painting is this is just the same paper folded in half like this, and you see these little marks right here. So oftentimes when you put ink on your brush, so I'm just taking the basic Chinese brush and adding some of the ink onto it here. Um, what you're going to find most of the time is when you first get the paint in the brush, it's too wet. There is just too dang much water in there. Oh, thanks. I see some folks over on YouTube. I appreciate the likes. The more likes, the better, right? Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Um, so oftentimes this is just a little bit too wet when you first do that. So you're going to find that you need a little piece of paper here, same paper to practice on or to sometimes clear some of that wetness off your brush before you go to your actual paper. That is a big problem that a lot of beginners have is they go straight from here where it's wishy-washy water, and I'll show you what happens when you have lots of water on your brush. Okay. So I'm just going to do a, what's happening is that the edges of this are feathering. Okay. Feather, feather, feather. And that's because there's a lot of water in the brush. Actually, if I was on the rough side, it would be even worse. But I'm on the smooth side right now. So it really is a dance between ink and water, ink and water. And so sometimes what I do to clear out some of the water on the belly is just on its side, I'll do this on the Juan paper. I'm I'm wicking a little bit of that water off of there, right? So I'm leaving the ink and I'm wicking the water. Yeah, and right now it's beginning to like do this. So when you hold an Asian brush, you could paint like you do with a regular paintbrush and a pencil, but the Asians hold it in between their fingers like this. So you have your thumb and your other fingers. Okay. So usually I'll hold, depends on how I'm feeling and how long the brush is. Sometimes I'll use all my fingers like this on it. So thumb on one side and your other fingers, and then you're doing your strokes. The interesting thing is by doing this, you're using your whole arm and your shoulder, and you're not just using your hand and your wrist. Okay. So you're getting your whole body. That's why a lot of my artwork looks very energetic because I try to, for the most part, use my whole body when I'm painting. And I learned this grip when I was, I don't know, maybe 12 years old, something like that. So I've been using this grip for a long time. Okay, so this should be ready to use and not have too much water in it at this point. Let's see, let's see. It looks like it does still have a lot of water in it. Part of that also is your brush. Which brush are you using? So if I grabbed a different brush like this one, um, okay, I'm going to show you my bucket of brushes here. This is all my Asian brushes right now. Oh, we can take out these big honkers right here, but you can see I have lots of different Asian brushes, right? From really shorty shorts like this to the big long ones like this. And so often when I'm working on a subject and combinations of hair too, like this is not just one hair, this is a combination of hair. Oh, let's see. I love paints. Just like a graffiti artist, we use our whole arm to paint, right? Versus just using the wrist. Exactly. Gives you a much more energetic feel, right? Um, Here's a great one right here. So when I'm working on a subject, I try different brushes. And that's why it's so important to have like loads and loads of practice paper like this, is so that you can just practice with your different brushes until you get the right brushes for the look that you're going for. Okay. So yeah, I love my Chinese brushes, but it just depends on the shape and the water and the paints I'm using. So I'm going to set this one aside just for a second. I'm going to go to the this one. Oop, hair's coming out of it because it's relatively new. Um, Getting some of the water out of the belly there. Let's bring it in here. Whoops, let me make sure you can see that. As I'm putting the paint into the brush, I'm turning the brush, turn, 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 turn. Because if I don't turn the brush, it's going to cause it to have a bizarre shape to it, right? Like flat on one side. But if I want it to be more even, I turn it as I pick up the paint. And then that way it's a little more even, see? Like that. So let's just put a couple of little ones here. Let's do another one that comes this direction. Yeah. So this one's depositing the paint with a little bit less water. There we go. So let's do a couple of orchids. So usually when I'm warming up, I'll do orchids because that's what most of the books show you how to do. Or I'll do bamboo. So let's just do an orchid real quick. So see how I'm holding it like that and up and down for the most part. Okay, let's just put a main orchid right here. And then we'll do this one, and we'll do another one here. Oh, so there's always when you're looking at a Chinese painting book, you're going to notice it shows you the order of strokes. So let me show you that real quick. Oh, where did I put Danny's book? Come on, Danny. So where did I put his book? Come on now. It can't have gone far because I've been sitting here with you the whole time. So I'm just looking. Come on, Danny. Where's your book? Where's your book, dude? Wild. It's not there. It's right in front of me. Hello. So, um, in the beginning of all these books, see how he's showing all of his different brushes? He's showing you how he holds it. And then before he does the first one, he shows you the different strokes. So some of my sheets are just practice strokes, practice, practice, practice. And it tells you, can you see the little arrows right there? Like for instance, to make this, you go this way and this way. Here you're going top to bottom. Here, let's see, I'm looking for one that goes from the bottom to the top. Sometimes you go, yeah, like this one, you're going this way, this way, this way. So there are actual directions that you're using in terms of the way that you move the brush like that. And so I do it naturally because I've done like calligraphy since I was little, right? So I know what order to do the characters in. Um, it's just natural for me. But if it's your first time using Asian brushes and trying these techniques, then you're going to want to look at the book to see what order um, you want to do the brush strokes in. Okay. And see, your brush is going to get like that as you work it. And then I put it in there and I'm twisting it as I pick up more paint. Okay. So I'm just going to go like this and then bring it down here. I'm going to put some little dots here. Maybe there's another little branch coming off, and I have another little one right here. So there's just a quickie like warm up on the orchid. But like I said, let me see. I'm going to put the numbers up here, like when I'm doing calligraphy. Now, I want to show you something. See how the tip of that brush is beginning to split? That means there's not enough water in it. So when it starts to split, I'm like, dang it. Okay, I got to grab a little bit more water and go back in and get more ink. Then you're adjusting your water to ink ratio again. Okay. There. Now it's back to being pointy. And that's what I want. So I'm just going to do the numbers 1, 2, 3. So there's one, here's two, plus and then sun, which is three. So that's character, character practice, but that's how you stroke your brush. Okay. Now, right now, I've got less paint and more water, so it's beginning to turn gray. All right. So if you want your grays, just add more water, but the more water you have, the more you're going to have to wick off of your brush, right? So you're going to have to wick some of it, and then you'll have your gray. I don't know. What am I doing here? Let's see. Let's do a little bit of bamboo, right? So with the bamboo, I'm holding it on its side instead of holding it up and down. The leaves you hold up and down, but the base of the tree, you hold it on its side. Ooh, I love the broken lines like that. There's the bamboo, the beginning of the bamboo. This is all warm up, right? So right now I've got gray paint there, and I'm just going to go like this. Now I'm holding it more up and down. So I'm just doing the leaves here, right? So that's what I'll do in order to play and get warmed up. test out my different brushes. Let's try that with the, I was telling you that you can use the quill brushes. So this is a traditional quill watercolor brush. So it should give you a similar feel and effect if you have a quill brush and you don't have an Asian brush. Okay, the Asian brush is just a little bit longer than that, right? But let's see if we use the quill. Oh, let's wick some of that away so we don't have too much water on it. And let's do another little, so I'm going to go on the side, another little bamboo. Nice. Yeah, so it's working fine like that. And then I'll get the tip of it like this. So these are just warm ups on cheapo paper. So let me show you if you weren't here earlier. This is it's inexpensive rice paper. So sumi, oriented painting, drawing, calligraphy, block printing. It'd be fun for block printing, watercolors. Okay. So something like this, Oriental rice paper, but you know it's the lighter one because it says 100 sheets. And it's going to be inexpensive for 100 sheets. Okay. So here I'm going to hold my quill brush just like I would my Asian brush, right? And the nice thing is it has a nice tip just like the Asian ones do. And so then I can create my bamboo in a similar fashion, right? With the quill. So if you have a quill, grab the quill for these techniques. It'll work great. Okay. So that's just playing with that. That's warming up. All right, warming up your brushes. Now let's do something that is, let's do one of the shrimp. The shrimp. So after I've played around, I've warmed up, I've decided what brush I wanted to use. Here we go. See, this is why I said you want to get the 100 pack of the inexpensive paper to just practice, practice, practice. Okay, there we go. Now let me see the brush that I was using yesterday. And I was like, oh, okay, I like that one. Surprisingly, it's a small calligraphy brush, not the big ones. And where's my paper towel? So let's get into the black. So I can make shrimp with black, or I can make the shrimp with the orange. We're going to do the orange. Don't worry. We're just right now, we're practicing. We're warming up, warming up. So the shrimp, if I'm looking at the shrimp from the side, and like I said, Danny's book, awesome. So he shows you step by step here doing the shrimp. There it is. So we're going to first do a shrimp from the side. That's this little guy right here. Okay. So first we're going to do this and then build the body of the head like this. Then we're going to do little sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to do the tail. So the tail comes up like this. And then we have a little fin here and a little fin here. Okay. So it may not look like a shrimp yet, but it's going to get there. So that's that part of it right there. And then we come over to this side, and now we're going to add in some more character to it. The legs, some little the little pinchers at the front, that kind of thing. So shrimp do have little pinchers. They're just tiny compared to like a lobster or a crab, okay? So there are a couple of these here. I'm going to put the eye up here while I'm at it. Okay, so, um, and then they also on each section, they have these little swimmers. So we're going to do the little tiny swimmers here. On each section gets a little swimmer. All right, doo-doo, like that. So we've got our little swimmers. Let me bring it up closer so you can see. Okay. So see how it's not too much water? This little section right here and this little section right here kind of had a lot of water in it. What happens is as it dries, you're going to see sometimes areas of what you've already painted just evaporate. It's because there was a lot of water on your brush. And then you can just go back in and touch it up if that's the case. Okay, let's wick, 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 wick. So this is just a piece of the Juan paper I'm wicking on, okay? And then what do we want to do? What do we want to do? I want to do the little right up here in the top section, just behind the head, is where the little legs come from. All right. So we're going to kind of make a dot and then go out, make another dot. Usually, if you stop, you'll get a dot. So you see those little dots right there? That's because I stopped. As I was doing the stroke, I stopped and it gave me a little dot. Okay. So there's one. I'm going to do another one over here. And then I'm looking at it from the side, so they're actually I'm seeing both sets of the legs because there are three on one side and three on the other side. So you're going to end up putting like lots of little legs in there, lots of little legs. And you're like, ah, too many legs. No, it's okay. Now we have to add the pinchers to the front of it, what it's going to use to grab things and put them in their mouth, right? So the pincher comes out, and then there's also a little knot there. And then we're just going to go pincher. You see the little pincher there? Hee so cute. Little pincher. Hello, pincher. And so we'll do the other pincher going this way. So we've got the little pinchers on it. And then don't they have these like crazy antenna at the front, right? So I'm going to add some just, they always have these like funky little antenna hairs at the front of the shrimp. And then they have the big ones, right? So they're going to have the big ones that come out and kind of go like this, right? And then there's going to be another one over here like that. So we've got a little shrimp, a little shrimp. And right here, you can see it's evaporated a little bit right there at the base of the tail, which is not a big deal. You can just leave it just like that. I mean, it's obvious it's a shrimp, right? When you look at it. But if you want to kind of correct that a little bit, you can come back in here and do this one more time. And that will deposit more ink in there. And then when it dries, it'll look more like what you wanted it to. But I try to do as little backtracking as possible when I'm doing these, because really, well, the more you do it, the more fluid you become, right? And so your hand knows what to do for each move, and it begins to make it a lot easier. That's the crab. That's the shrimp. The shrimp. Let's do a little crabby. Let's do a little crabby in the black. So usually I'll practice the strokes in black on the cheapo paper, and then I'll move to color. Oh, this is fascinating. Ah, yeah, I made it look so easy. Well, as I showed you, I practiced it a bunch. Here, did you see this earlier? I think you did watercolor, etc. But see all the practice, and this was the practice on watercolor paper. That was the last practice that I did compared to the first practice that I did. Let me just put this in front of me because I want to do the collab right now. Okay, so again, ooh, these hairs come out. All right. Some people are like, man, the hair falls out. I'm like, yeah, my hair falls out too. Okay. So it's okay. Just pull it out and move along. Okay. So we're going to do a little crab. So the crab has what's called a carapace, the top of it, right? It's hard, a hard carapace. So we're going to start by creating the edge of the carapace here. And then we're going to come across the top like that. And then we're going to dip down and we're going to do the other half of the carapace over here. And then the carapace comes around like this and around like this, right? When you look at a crab, like that, almost like a stingray, isn't it? So that's the back of the guy. And hold on, um I'm going to put a little more water in here because I want the rest of the back to be a little bit gray. But let's just put the eyes on first while I've got the dark. So for the eye, see, it's nice that you have a teeny tiny little tip. So there's a little eye stalk here and here. And then on the end of the stalk, you have your eye right there. right? So if you want to give it more personality, you leave a little bit of space so that it's not completely black, or you can do it completely black. Another thing is for a crab, they have these little hairs that stick out of their mouth. And so I'm just instead of holding it like I normally would, I stick this finger, so my ring finger underneath like this, and that gives me a little more control if I want to do teeny tiny little strokes, okay? So I'm just coming in here and I'm doing those little tiny strokes that are part of the mouth. So there you go, done. And once you follow along in the book with the steps, I'll show you. It really is. He breaks it down. So see, carapace, doing the back. There are the eyes and the little dots. So we're working it through. We're working it through. So I want the back to be a little more gray. So I'm going to add a little bit more water into the black in order to get a gray. Okay. So he just shows stroking it like this. See, I'm holding it more on its side, right? More on the side there, just to give it some strokes. Boop. Doesn't matter if they're small strokes, large strokes, any kind of strokes. And then he comes back in with a dark. So I'm going to add some more black to the tip here because this is kind of gray. And here I'm going to add some lines going across it because doesn't it normally have like little lines across it like this, right? I'll show you in just a second. And little lines kind of giving you the idea of the direction that it's going in, like that. So you see the little lines on there that are darker, going to kind of give you an idea of what the direction is of that. Okay. And then I actually going to put a little bit more dark on the eyes. Why not? Can't hurt. And I'm just for fun, I'm going to put some little dots on the mouth. Okay. Now let's do remember this is an underwater crab. So what? The back of it has little fins, right? Because I used to live in Maryland. And so we had the Maryland blue crab, and the blue crabs had the little paddles on the back, right? So I'm going to just go in with like a light gray, medium gray. Remember, as I'm picking it up, I'm turning, 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 turning. So I want the little paddles in the back. So I'm going to do this, and then I want one section, two sections. Oop, a little bit. They're swimmers. That's what they're called. There's a book called Beautiful Swimmers, and it's about the Florida blue crabs. That, of course, because I lived in Maryland, I was familiar with that book. And then that, and then we're going to put another little swimmer right there. Okay, doesn't have to be anything fancy. If you look at his in the book, oh my gosh, it's just, so beautiful, but he's been doing it for how many years? So it's this is like my third crab. So it's not going to be as good as his. All right, then to do the legs, of course, he has um, the big ones that are coming up here, right? So on my side, on the side there, this one is, I went up on this one. This one, I'm going to go down and down like this. Okay. And then we're going to put the pinchers out here. There's one. Let's do the other one. Again, this is warm up, right? Warming up, warming up. So I'm going to come out here, and then I'm going to go this direction, and then I'm going to do the pincher. It's okay to move the page, right? If you need to get a better angle on there. Let's fix that one a little bit. Oh, there he is. Hello, crab. Almost done with the crab warm up. Okay. Next, we're going to do 3 sets of legs over here. So the legs, oh, I'm just going to look at the reference. So he shows you right here what to do for a leg. So the first move is from up here down toward the little guy, okay, from away. and then in, and then the next one is like this, and then we just put the end right here. Okay, that's one leg. So you just basically follow along, and then there's going to be another leg comes in here. Now the end of my brush is beginning to get frayed, so that means what? I need to pick up just a little bit of water and a little bit more paint. So we're gonna bring this one down, and then one more, and then this, and then like that. So there's one set of legs, and then over here we'll put the other set of legs, and then we'll have a little crab. Now we've got gray, we've got black going on here. And nope, there we go. And then the little sort of hook at the end. Okay. And then another one like this, and a little hook at the end, and then another one. Dee, one more. There you go. So there's a crab, and the more you do it, the better you'll get, right? At doing it. Plus, when you do it in black as opposed to and gray, as opposed to doing it in colors, it's going to look a lot different as well, right? But perfect paper for just practice. Look at the back. You see how much ink came through the back? So that's why you need to have this piece of felt here, which you can wash whenever you want to. If it looks like it got too much ink on this at a certain point, just throw it in the wash. It's just or just wash it in the sink. It's just felt. Okay. So it should be able to take being washed. But sometimes with these paintings, I flip them over and I'm like, ooh, I like the back side of it better than I like the front side of it sometimes. Isn't that funny? So, depending on which one you like, you may choose to do it this way instead of doing it this way. Either way, right? It all looks good. All right, so that's just using blacks and grays. Why don't we move on to color? Oh my goodness. Love color. Love color. So I'm going to set this aside. We are going to use it for the little eyes. Oh, okay. Hi there, Brewer House. The book that I'm referencing is Introduction to Chinese Brush Painting. And I'm simulcasting to YouTube. And so what I do is under the live tab on my YouTube channel, let me put that here so you can snap it if you would like. So right here is my Instagram, but my YouTube channel is right here. And so you can go to my YouTube channel, and in the under the live tab, you'll be able to see these classes. And then also in the description of each of the class videos are links to all of these products, like the books and the paints that we're using and the brushes and stuff like that. Okay, so thanks for asking, Brewer House. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. You are welcome. Yeah. That now one of the things I mentioned earlier, you may not have been here yet, is that I would not recommend this as a first book if you're just going into Chinese brush painting. The first book that I recommend is this one right here. It's a Walter Foster book. I don't think they do the big format like this anymore. I think it's, a little more reasonable format, smaller. But it's by Lucy Wang, and it's Chinese brush learn to paint step by step. So this is what I recommend for people to start. And the reason is because the there's a lot more instruction in here in terms of first you do this, then you do this, then I mean, he has it in his book as well, Chinese brush painting, but you're going to get the simpler projects in this book. This is not so simple, but it actually is when you break it down. And you see here how they show you the brush and they say, do it in this direction, do that one in that direction, do this one like this. So I like the way that the Walter Foster Chinese brush painting book shows you all those details. So that's what I recommend for somebody who's brand new. But then if you've played around with it for a little bit, then a book like this is just a joy. He does give you some examples of the brush strokes, but not quite to the degree that you get in the other books. This is more like, okay, you've done some brush painting. Now let's look at some additional, like really cool subjects, like this. Um, what is this one called? The bird of paradise, right? And then the butterfly on the lily. It's like a little bit more advanced. Okay, so but fabulous, and that's where I learned how to do the shrimp and the crab. Fantastic. Okay, so the paints we're going to use now, we're going to move into color. And we're going to move on to the thicker paper. Okay. So for instance, this is what I did on the thinner paper with color. But you see how the color on the thinner paper is a little bit more faded, right? So I'm going to use the little bit thicker paper by Yasutomo. There we go. And it's the sketch paper, they call it. And it's called, well, they number it 6H is the weight of it, or it's also called hosho, Hosho, hosho paper. Okay, but this one is much thicker, each single page. You see what I do? I just sit here and I practice. Oh my gosh. And then when I do all these practice pages of characters, which book did this come out of? That was practice out of this book right here. This is another one that's not a beginner book, but gorgeous. Love this. And I have a previous live workshop where I showed painting fish, the goldfish, and it came out of this book, The Chinese Painting Techniques for Exquisite Watercolors. But definitely to me, not a beginner book. No, 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 no. You want to have played with that other Walter Foster a little bit more before you get into this one. But that's what these characters are from, this book right here. Warm ups. And but this is a nice paper, and I actually tear this paper up and then I use it as collage paper in my mixed media artworks. I'll show you some of those later, the mixed media artworks. So I'm going to take a piece of the thicker Yasutomo sketch paper, sumie paper, the thicker paper. Oops, hold on a second. Let's get one of these out of here. Like that. Oh, this is like so lovely. Still rice paper, still has a smooth side and a rough side. So you decide which side you want to, how many more times can I say side, right? So you're going to choose whether you want to work on the rough side or the smooth side. Tonight, for what we're doing, I'm going to work on the smooth side. Okay. But when I'm doing, like this paper comes in larger sizes. So if I'm using larger brushes, like maybe one fluffy like this or a bigger one like this, and I want to do pine trees or something, then I'll use the rough side because I get a more broken line when I do the rough side. So you can use either side. And so what we're going to do right now, this is I had introduced earlier, there are two different types of uh, Marie's watercolors. And there's the regular Marie's watercolors. That's these colors right here. You see how bright they are, but these are not the ones to use on the Chinese paper. The ones to use on the Chinese paper are the Marie's Chinese. So I'm going to show you the difference. Where's the other box? Here's the other box. So if you weren't here earlier, this is the regular Marie's watercolors. It says Marie's watercolor. Beautiful, 18 colors, comes in tubes like this. Come on, you can open for me. Yee! Mm, Here it is. So comes in watercolor tubes like this, and that's these colors. These are your more typical colors that you would find in a watercolor set, but those are in tubes, right? Now, what we're going to use on the rice paper for Chinese painting is Marie's Chinese painting color. So it's a little different formula, all right, for purposes of later mounting your rice paper. So it's a different kind of paint formula. So that's these right here. And let me get the bottom of the box so you can see this is like this. And it says Chinese painting color. And it comes in different sets. You can get a set of 12. You can get a set of, this is the set of 18. I think you can get a 24 and a 36, I believe. Um, but it's the Chinese painting color, particularly for rice paper. Okay. It's not going to say it on there. But when you read Danny's book, so this is Danny Hanlin Chen is the author. When you read his book, it's very specific when he's talking about the materials. If you see this picture right here, number G, and it says Chinese watercolor paints. They're traditional, la 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 la, use only Chinese colors, okay? Because they'll bind properly to the paper. All right. So that's why he says that. And these colors look a little bit different. I'm going to show you the comparison real quick again here. They look a little bit different. They're not quite as saturated as these regular watercolors. Can you see the difference? Like here is the deep green and there is the Viridian. Those are kind of the same in the same family, or they should be, but you'll notice this one is much deeper and transparent, and this one is not. This one is a little brighter. So they're different. This violet of the regular watercolors, super dense. This purple up here, a little less dense. Okay. So they are different. The color sets are different. So, hey, buy both of them, right? Like I did. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try them both. All right. So we're going to be working with this set. And of course, we're doing shrimp. So the shrimp are going to be our cinnabar color right here. And it's number, now these don't have English on them. They just have the Chinese, but they do have the number. So number 398. Is this number? Yeah, 398. That's the cinnabar right here. And then I also want a little bit of the, they call it Eosin, Eosin. I don't know why they call it that. I would call it rose. Yes, I do see the difference. Yeah. When you're looking at it in person, watercolor, etc., it's a big difference. When you're looking at it, head on. Um, but maybe not through the camera. So we're going to work with the cinnabar color for the shrimp, and we're going to work with the Eosin, they call it, which I would call it rose. Okay. So those two for the shrimp. And then we'll get to the crab. When it's time, we'll go into the blues and greens for the crab. Okay. So let me put that aside there. And what are we going to need to put it on? Oh, we're going to put them on the plate. Nice. So I'm just going to grab some of the cinnabar here. There we go. And it's interesting, it's a little pastier than a regular watercolor. And that's because I've read that it has a little bit of glue in it. And so that glue is what helps it attach to that rice paper and hang on for dear life. Okay, here we go. So let's put a little bit of the red on there. Cool. Gorgeous. Ah, so pretty. So pretty. Okay, so I will set those aside for the moment. And I'm going to move this out of the way. But so you can see the difference. Here's the cinnabar and here's the vermilion. So the vermilion is a little more orange, which is fine. If you want it to be a little more orange, you can pick that one. I kind of like this one because it has just like a tint of pink in it, just a tint. You could also go like, woo, really wild with the scarlet, really dark if you wanted to. There's a nice range here, nice range of colors. I think that he tells you in the book. Let's see, what does he say in the book for the shrimp? Does he give you the colors? I just looked at the pictures and did it. I didn't even read it. Let's see. What are we using? Boo, 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 boo. He says carmine, orange and carmine is what he's saying. So that's okay. Doesn't matter. Oop, excuse me, just a moment. My ears. My ear is itching. What does that mean? My right ear is itching. Does that mean something? Okay. Sorry I'm late. What paints are these? Hey, Justine, thanks for asking. And hello from Michigan. Hello, hello. Okay, what I'm using and what's recommended in the book, um, this this is kind of what we're following along with. The Introduction to Chinese Brush Painting. It's a book by Danny Hanlin Chen, right there. I'll have a link to it in the description of the video on YouTube later tonight. I will do that. Okay. I'll put a link in the description. This is an example right here of the shrimp and the crab. Okay. Um, thank you very much, watercolor, etc. Oh, it means that I'm brilliant because I had to itch my right ear. You're funny. So these are the paints. Let me take the top here. That book, Chinese Brush Painting by Danny Chen, says that when you're doing this painting on rice paper, and that's what we have here, we have rice paper on top of a piece of felt, okay, so that it can capture the excess ink that goes through the paper. And so what he says is use the Chinese painting colors. So use the Chinese colors. See where it says Chinese painting colors. I was showing earlier, Justine, that Marie's makes regular watercolors and Chinese watercolors. So Chinese painting watercolors. So here are the regular watercolors right here. This is the package. It says Marie's watercolor. And I had bought these originally, and then I went to use them, and then I read his book a little more carefully, and it said Chinese watercolor. I'm like, uh-oh, okay, let me check if Marie's has a Chinese version of the watercolor. And sure enough, they do. And that's this one right here. So this is designed specifically for your rice paper so that it will stay on the rice paper when you mount it, because I use a starch paste to mount it onto a backing. And this is the Marie's watercolor, this other box right here. It's the regular watercolor and it's on regular watercolor paper. So you absolutely can do this process on regular watercolor paper. You don't have to use rice paper. And you can use regular watercolor brushes. You don't have to use Asian brushes. I'm just showing you some of the different possibilities here. So I went ahead and I grabbed a couple of colors out of here, and that's what we have in in the pan right here. So okay, I had two more colors. There they are. I want to make sure I put them back in there so that I don't misplace them, because that's easy to happen in this studio with so much in here. So we'll get back to that when we get to the crab, because the crab's going to be in the blues and greens. Okay, so I'm just setting that aside, but we've got our cinnabar color and our Eocene, they call it, which Gamsi. Yeah, you can use Kuretake. You can use the Kuretake. I've done a lot of paintings on rice paper with the Kuretake. It Same thing, the Kuretake formula. If you have you I'm just asking Justine over on YouTube, have you painted with the Kuretake? Because if you have, you're going to notice when you're going to pick up the paint from the big pans that there's a little more drag on it, right? When you go to pick up the paint, it's a little different consistency than say a Winsor Newton watercolor or any of the other regular watercolors that we're used to using, right? And that's because the formula is a little bit different. It's made to sit on the rice paper and then allow you to mount the rice paper with paste. So they have a little bit of glue in the formula in order to allow you to do that. Yes. Okay. Good. So Justine said, correct. All right. So yay. Here we have a little bit of the cinnabar and a little bit of the Eocene, which I'm going to call Rose from the Chinese watercolors. Which brush? Which brush? The brush that I actually really had a good time with, but for smaller, is this little one right here. This little Chinese brush seemed to work really well. It just depends on how big I want to do it. Okay. Which one? Which one? It's always a problem, right? You have so many brushes. No, which brush? Because these are some of my favorite brushes to hold, but then this one is like a classic, right? You're quite welcome, Justine. Thanks for your question. That's why I'm here, and I love doing lives for that reason. All right, let's use the little one. I can always move up to the big one, right? The other brush that I have in here is a quill brush. So if you have other watercolors, you may have a quill brush for your watercolors. So if you don't have Asian brushes, grab your quill brush because it's going to work almost exactly the same as these Asian brushes. Like, see how the structure of the brush tips, right? So they're going to work pretty much the same. Slightly different, but for the most part the same, okay? So that's helpful to know too, right? That this is a Raphael um, quill brush, and it also gets the nice tip on it. It has a fat belly like the Asian brushes. So yes, you can substitute a quill brush if you have a quill, or you can substitute even. This is my regular Princeton brush. Which size is this? The 6. So you could also use this. It's just the regular watercolor brushes don't have the same belly. It can come to a point. Let me show you. So this is the ones that I usually use for watercolor, but and it comes to a nice point, but you see how skinny the belly is here? It's skinny. And when you do Asian brush painting, it's a little different. It's a little different. I like having the fatter belly like what a quill brush would give you, okay? But we're going to work with this. Notice it's by Yasutomo. See there? Yasutomo. What does it say? All purpose SW3. So I'll be sure to link to that in the description of the video later tonight when I add the description in. Okay. So where's the top of that? Maybe I can move this up just a little bit more so we can see more of the paper. So I just have a piece of felt in the background, and then I have a piece of the same paper. No, this is the cheaper paper, folded in half that I use to get excess water off if I need to, excess water and paint. Okay. So we've got some water in here. Ooh, here we go. Here we go. This is fun. Now, what Danny shows you in the book is he likes to load 2 colors onto his brush so that you get some variations. So what I'm doing is I'm loading into the belly of the brush right now some of this pinky red, the cinnabar they call it. And then on the tip, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab a little bit of that eocene on the tip. Hee hee. So that when I put it on the paper, here we go, that you've got some pink and some orange together. So, and that's similar to if you're familiar with toll painting, you do the same thing. You put one color on one end of the brush and another color in the other area. And so now that's the head of the shrimp. So now, do you remember that from Forrest Gump? Shrimp gumbo, shrimp, fried shrimp, right? All of that for Bubba Gumps. Okay, so now I'm going to create the little sections. And there are like 5 little sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, 5 little sections and then a tail. So we're gonna the tail. So sometimes the nice thing about the book is it kind of shows you the direction that you're gonna be doing your oh yeah, Forrest Gump. Yep. So right now I'm gonna do the end tail section, and the end tail section has it's skinny at the bottom, and as it gets closer to the shrimp, it gets fatter. So I'm gonna use this and use the tip here and then just sort of press down. That's a lot of when you do watercolor is brush control. Like how are you moving your brush? And notice I'm holding it like a Chinese brush here. I usually put my pinky in, when you drink a cup of tea, right? And you stick your pinky out. Well, here I'm putting my pinky in. That just, I mean, I've had a brush like this in my hands for 40 years. So this is just the way that I do it anyway. Okay, so we've got the end of the shrimp and we're going to add the little fins to the end, right? Because doesn't a shrimp have little fins on the end? It looks like I want this to be a little bit thicker. And then we're going to put the little swimmers in here. So we're just coming here and we're putting the little swimmers in it. And then let's see, we need one more little swimmer. And at the top here, now I'm starting to get the tip broken a little bit, meaning the tip is not completely together. So I'm just adding a little bit more watery paint to it. So I'm going to come here. See, I'm doing detail. So when I do detail, I tend to take my ring finger and put it underneath so it's kind of wedged in between like that. And then that way I can move this finger and get some quick marks like this, right? Because we've got the front end of it has these little antennae coming out, right? And then we're going to do the little legs, aren't we? We're going to, so from here, we're going to go up, wait just a second, come down, and then that'll give us the little dots at the end there. See, this paper is operating a little differently than the last paper because it's not absorbing as much as quickly. So this one, like I would make these a little bit bigger here, just so that it looks the other one, the other paper it spread more. Let's put some more of that on there and some more of that. So we're going to go here. Again, we're doing the little legs. We're looking at it from the sides. So we've got lots of little legs and they just go out, down, and up like that. And then we're going to put on the little swimmers, right? The little pinchers that they use to eat with up here. So we're going to go up, up, and over, and then put the little pinchers on there. And then we're looking at it from the side. So the other one's going to come out the side of the head over here. And then we're going to put the little pinchers on. Okay. So we've got a shrimp with some little pinchers. All right. So I can see with this paper, I need to put a little bit more water on my brush than I did with the other one. Okay, let's do that. And more orange. There we go. Nice combination there. And then what else do we need to do with this? We need to put the antenna. We need the big antenna. So we're just going to use the tip of the brush here, and we're going to do one antenna coming off here, Ew. And another antenna sort of coming off the other side like that. Oh, there's our shrimpy. Hello, shrimp. Now, it's a little almost too pink for me. Like there's a lot more pink in there than there is the cinnabar. You know what? We can adjust that for our next one. Oh, hello, Salmon's girl. Welcome in. Glad you could make it. We're doing Chinese brush painting. We're making some shrimp. Okay, so I want to get it's a little bit too on the pink side. Yes, hello, hello. Thanks for joining in. So I'm going to go grab the vermilion, the number 399, to make it a little more orange. Or I can just grab some gamboge and mix it. He actually mixes it in the book. He's like, grab a yellow and grab and then mix them. So let's grab the gamboge. We can probably mix our own little orange going on there. So again, I've got my this is just a Corel serving tray. It's wild. They call this gamboge, but it really looks like Indian yellow. Yeah. If I were to call it, I would call it Indian yellow, but that's okay. So I'm just going to take a little bit of water here. I'm going to bring some of that in here. So I get a different orange. Can't hurt. All right. And we're going to do a shrimp. So this is a shrimp from the side. Now we're going to do a shrimp from the top. All right. And yeah, earlier, Salmon's girl, I was talking about Forrest Gump, right? I was saying um, shrimp, shrimp on the grill, fried shrimp, right? What other kind of shrimp did the gentleman for Forrest, um, what was it? Not Bubba, yeah, Bubba Gump's, right? Was the restaurant chain they put together? Okay, let's try this again. So we're going to do one that's from the top, but I'm going to do it this direction. So it's facing down. All right. So this one, it's a little bit different when you do it from the top. And So I'm going to do this and then like that. All right. So instead of it being only one half of the top, I haven't put the eyes on yet, but I'll do that later when I'm just dipping into the black. Okay. So there's that half of the head. And then, oof, this is like strong color. Let me add some more water. I'm feeling like it's almost too strong, the color now. I'm dipping the tip in the pink, the pink. Okay, and then we're gonna do our sections. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we want the tail. The tail's gonna be a little tail from this direction. There we go. And then we'll put the little flippers on the bottom there. All right. So there's that part of it. And then we're going to do the little swimmers are going to be underneath, right? Like here, I put the little swimmers on there, but really the little swimmers are underneath it. So when you're looking at it from the top, you're not going to see the little swimmers, right? Unless maybe there's like a little one sort of sticking out, right? Otherwise, you're just not going to see them. So I'm just putting a few of them on there, just for the heck of it. But basically, you would not see the little swimmers there. And then we're going to do I love the little pinchers that they put the food in their mouth with. So I'm going to do those first. So I'm just going to come out here like this and then put the little pinchers on it. And then do this one right here and put the little pinchers on it. It doesn't matter if they're even, y'all. It's paint, right? We're just having fun. So do not worry yourself if it doesn't look like perfect. It's not well, that's not what my painting is about. My painting is about relaxing, having fun, right? Okay, so I'm just going to do some they're it's little it's little antennae sticking out the front. Let's do the little legs. Let me see here. What direction do I want them to go in? So they need to go here and then here and then here. Here, 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 right? The little legs up in there. Okay, so we've got some legs going that way. We've got some legs coming out here. If you delay just for a second, you'll get those little dots at the elbows. Okay, for your shrimp, your little shrimps. Okay, let's do another one out here. So we've got the little legs on it, and then we're gonna add the add the antennae, right? My favorite part is adding the little antennae so one antennae comes off of this side, another antennae is going to come off of this side. You see how sometimes when you're using the very tip of your brush, you like sometimes I accidentally lift it up. So there we go. Close enough. Close enough, right? Um, so that's two shrimpies, and maybe that's enough for right now. In this one, I did 4. You can see here. I did several of them going in different directions. And that's the idea. You'd want to just play. Thank you, watercolor, etc. Said very nice. So if you look in here, you see how he has like one that barely looks like it's there up in the corner, and then a main one on the side, another one coming in over here, part of one in the back there, very light. Right. So that's kind of the composition that he made of those. Now let's put the little black dot for the eyes, right? Because we still have to do the little black eye dot. So what I found I like to do with the little dot is I like to use just a small. Um, this is the Princeton Velvet Touch, but let's see. I think it has like a really tiny tip to it. So you have a little more control. You see how small that is? So there's not it doesn't have a big belly like these do. So this, if all you have is the Asian brush, you just use the tip of the Asian brush. But the thing is, I found when I was using the tip of the Asian brush, I was depositing too much of the black. And I'm like, no, 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 don't do that. So I reached for my Princeton Velvet Touch. This is a number 2 round. And so there's not a lot of belly here. So you're just going to hold just a little bit of black, just enough more control, right? When you're putting in the eyes. So let's go back to here, which is our black from earlier when we were practicing. And I'm just going to pick up a little bit of black right here. Nice. So fill in that. That way I'll have a little more control than when I use the Chinese brush that has a lot of color in it. Okay, so here the little eyes are kind of on a stalk. So I'm going to put the eye and the little stalk and the little stalk here and the eye here. Okay. And then over here, the eyes are on the side of the head. So we're going to put a little eye right here. And then the one behind it is a little more gray. So I need to put a little more water on my brush. And remember, we have this right here. That's not, that's too much water. So I'm just picking up gray instead of going directly into the black, right? And if you need to test it, what do? You just test it on here. It's like a little too much gray. Okay. Adjust, 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 right? But that's why you have your practice paper right here. So that, yeah, beautiful. Now we got it. So now I can go on here with the little too much water, but you know what? It's fine. It's fine. It works. It'll work. What I'm going to do is that had a lot of water, so it spread a lot. I'm going to add just, I took some of the water out and I'm just going to darken it just a little bit more. I just put another little dot on it. There you go. That works. This rice paper, it just goes, phew. If there's a lot of water on it, it goes crazy. Okay. So that's the idea of doing the shrimpies. Now let's go do the the crab, right? So we'll put the crab down here. And so now we have to get a different color, don't we? So over here I have two waters. So I can have a dirty water and a clean water. Okay. And so I just rinsed that in the dirty water. Now I'm rinsing it in the clean water. So now I have a clean brush. Woohoo! Okay, getting rid of the black for a minute there. We will need the black again for the crab, but we need the blue for the club. And what Danny suggested in his book is you see how it's kind of blue green right here on the back of the crab. So he suggests putting a green and a blue down on your and so this is cerulean blue right here. Cool. Nice. Cerulean blue. And then this is the, what color green did they call this? Let me see. They have the names here. They called this one Viridian. They called this color right here. So let's put a little bit of that on there. So we've got a dark green and a medium blue. And then I'm also going to grab just a little bit of their darker blue. Why not? Just in case I want it, I'll just put it. That's the beautiful thing about these trays, right? You put little dots of color and you do your mixing and you can use, hey, S. Diedrich, welcome in, welcome in. We're doing some undersea creatures, some shrimp, and now I'm going to do a crab with Asian brushes, Chinese brushes. And we're using special Chinese paints that work on rice paper by Marie's is the name of the company. All right. So now we've got our greens and blues here. The first thing we want to do, of course, is create our little outline for our crab, like I showed you earlier. So let me grab some of oop, I need a paper towel. I do still have a little bit of that orange, pinky orange in there. There we go. So I'm going to grab some of the light blue, maybe put just a touch of the green in there. Oh, that's so pretty. Okay. To do the outline. Okay, so we're just going to do the outline of the crab. Let's see, I want the carapace to be like over here. And then, oop, I'm going to do this. And then another carapace. So that's the front end of the crab. And then we're going to bring it down here like this. The crab comes like this, right? It almost looks like a stingray. when you do the outline there of the crab, right? It looks kind of like a little stingray. Let me move this up some so you can see it a little bit better. Boop. There you go. So that's the body of the crab right there. Let me move it up even a little tiny bit more. Okay, there you go. So the body of the crab. And then what Mr. Chen says, let's see, the crab is right here. There it is. So he says you do the little carapace right there, and then you put some blue and green together and you do the body. So he's using a little bit of the darker blue and the green to give you sort of that aqua-like look to it. And then he's pulling it down. Now there's a lot of water in my brush right now, so when it dries, it's actually going to look significantly lighter than what I just pulled down. Okay. Um, but I'm going to go in, I'm going to mix a little bit more. So it's a little color variation, and I'm going to do it again. So we've got some nice variation in there. Dook, dook, dook. There we go. So now it's a combination of blue and green. Can you see that right there? So when I paint, even when I paint with acrylics and other watercolors, I do the same thing. I'm constantly pulling different colors together. And that's what makes your artwork uniquely yours. All right. So we've got that part of the club. Let's see. It looks like he put the eyes on next. So I'm going to put this down for a moment and let's dip back into that black just so we can follow along with his instructions. So I'm going to grab that little bit of black here with my number 2 Princeton, my little detail brush. And then we're going to put the eyes on and we're going to do the little mouth pinchers, right? So let's see. He puts in the little eye stalk and eye. And then over here, we're going to put another eye stalk. Is he looking in a different direction with this other eye? I don't know. Let's see. And then the little mouth bits right here, right? They're just little hairs that stick out where he brings the food in right there. So little marks, just whittle marks. So that's it for that little brush, right? Don't need that right now. All right. Another thing that he adds is once this is dried just a little bit, then he'll go in with a deeper color. So I'm getting a little bit deeper blue on there. And then he puts like little lines on here. So you can kind of tell what direction the light is going in and the direction that the back of the crab is going in, right? So a little bit of detail lines a little bit. All right, the next thing we're going to do is put on the side legs here. So let's dip back in, get some of the blue, some of the green, some of the dark blue. Woof. Okay. And then to do these, we're going in toward the body. So we want it thinner and then thicker. So thinner and then thicker, right? And then we're going to go down this way. And then we're going to put the little, I'm looking at his instructions to see sort of what direction he's saying to move the brush in. So now we've got the little hook on the end there. So doing it again. And if you're uncomfortable moving your hand in that direction like that, just turn your paper. It's okay. It is a-okay to turn the paper. So I'm going to do another one here. And then we're going to bring this down. It's going to be sort of behind it. And then we're going to do the little hook. Okay. So that's another one. And then, so we have 3 of these right here. And it's a little thicker at the body. And then it's going to come down behind that one and then boop, little hook. Okay. So there is 3 little legs right there. Nice. Now the trick I always find is matching the legs on the other side. That's why I say often I have to turn the page so that I get the right angle as I'm doing it. So let's try it like this maybe. I'm gonna need a little bit more water on my brush. Ah, that can spell disaster when you add more water to your brush and you're like, no, now it's not gonna flow the same. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. Whatever, right? Okay, so the three legs over here, we're gonna start this direction and bring it in. So we want it skinny at the top and fat at the bottom. And it comes up just a little bit like this. There we go. And then here we want it skinny where the knuckle comes together there and a little bit fatter as it goes down. See, there's a little more green in this. That's okay though. And then we're going to do the little hook. Hook. There we go. So there's that one. Then we're going to do another one here, coming into the body, going like this, and then the little hook. And one more, right? One more right there, coming into the body, little like this, and a little hook. Okay, so now we've got three on each side. Phew, takes practice, but it's getting there, right? Our little collab is getting there. Now, what I might do is take a little bit more of the dark and like darken the edge over here. Just sort of darken the edges a little bit. And the reason for that being that those edges are going to be, it's going to be going like this, right? The top of the crab. Thank you, watercolor, etc. Said I love your crab. So the sides of the crab are going to be rounded a little bit like this, and so they're going to be a little bit darker. And that's why I went ahead and darkened that area. And actually, we can just add just a little bit more darkness here and a little more darkness along here too. Just a little, right? Just to give it a little extra dimension. Dee, just for fun. And I can actually usually their shell is much more rounded on top and then a little flatter on the side. So I'm just going to add a little bit more in here and a little bit more in here just to give it a little more sort of dimension, right? That's okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. All right. Now we have to put the swimmers on the back because this is an underwater crab. Did you know that in Florida we have land crabs? I'm wondering if any of you have seen land crabs before. Aren't they fun? If you've seen them, they're a little scary. My kids would be like, "Mom, it's a crab," and they have a hole in the ground here in Florida. So they live in little burrows in the dirt near the water. And if you get up close to them, they stand up on their hind legs and they have big pinchers and they stick their big pinchers out like this and they're like, doing this, running across the street sideways, right? Oh my gosh, they're scary. They're definitely scary. I tell the girl, I told my daughters, hey, do not disturb them. Do not get close because the force of their pinchers is woo. Fortunately, none of my girls ever ever got close enough to hurt themselves. Okay, so here we're going to do this part right here, which is a claw, right? And so see how, like I said, it's nice. He gives you the written instructions and then he shows you the pictures, how to do it. So let me see where he has them placed. All right, let's get the claws and get some of the green in there too. All right, so he's got the claws kind of coming up here. They're kind of just underneath the carapace right here. So I'm going to bring it in the first, let me see, first stroke is toward the body. Yep, so we're going to bring it here and toward the body. And then this one over here towards the body. All right. There are three sections to their claws. Okay. So then just going to turn it to make it a little bit easier to do it. The next is you actually want this big round There's a big round section right here. Okay. And then we're going to do the claw. So let me make this one a little bit bigger. There we go. And then we're going to do the claw. So the claw is usually the outside part of the claw is usually longer. So we're going to see how I'm holding it real close down here so I can get some of the detail going. And then this is shorter like that. So this one, I actually want to go back in and make it bigger like that and a little pointier. Come on, point. There we go. And then here, I'm going to do it up this way. So they're not exactly the same. And I'm going to bring it around like that. And then we're going to do the little part of it. And there we go. Ah, what? We have a crab, but now we've got to do the little swimmers on the back. Because the crab has these little flat flippers on the back. That's the Maryland blue crabs were like that. See, he doesn't tell you that step. He just shows you, and all of a sudden they're there. Doesn't show you the exact way to do it. So I looked at this one over here to see what his little swimmers look like. So they have the same sort of structure as these legs, but instead of having a little hook on the end, they're going to have a little flipper on the end. Okay. And then he also picks up just a tiny bit of extra color to kind of make them fun. So let's grab some of this color. Ooh, there's too much water on my brush. Too much water. Watch, it's going to spread. Not enough color, too much water. Okay, so we're going to adjust that a little bit. And I'm going to, by doing that, I'm getting some of the water out of the belly of the brush, right? This is just a piece of the cheap Schwan paper folded in half. Okay, that I can wick away some of the water. And then, so we're going to do the back end of the swimmers first. So we're going to start it just like we did the other one. So let me just turn this one around like this. Right. And then we're going to have a little like this. But now we want little swimmers, little paddles on the end. So what he likes to do, he was saying in the book, and you can see it in the picture, he just picks up on the end right here, just a little bit of this peachy color, or I'm sorry, the pink color, just a little bit. So we've got a combination of, oh, too much, too much, too much, too much. Come on, come on, come on. There we go. Okay, now it's kind of purpley. And see why I like this dish so much, right? Isn't it fabulous? To use as my, sorry, mom, right? My mom in heaven. Okay, so now we're gonna, hmm, let's see, I'm gonna practice one on here. We're gonna sort of do this. Boop, there, like that. And I'm gonna need just a little bit more water in my brush. No. Yes. Okay. A little bit more blue in the belly, a little bit more pink at the top. Okay. I'm stressing. Let's get the little, let's get the little paddle going here. Yee. Maybe I'll do it this way. There we go. Nice. Better. Better, better, better. Except that I sort of wanted that pink and go in the other direction. That's okay though. Now I'm going to do this one this way. So it's the other. There we go. Let me do this one kind of like that too. So I can fix that a little bit. There we go. We got some swimmers. We got ourselves some swimmers on the back end there. They're a little bit intense compared to, he tried to do his like super light. So they weren't, they didn't take up too much of your attention. But hey, we now have a crab, right? So that's awesome. So now you've seen how to do the shrimp and how to do the crab. I'm just picking up a little bit of the paint here by just using water and seeing if I can maybe make it a little bit not so dark. Oftentimes I'll just ruin it by trying to fix it, right? So most of the time I just say, that's it, I'll do another one. So that is doing it here on the rice paper. And this is that thicker rice paper from Yasutomo. And the paint sits on it a lot more easily. It's a lot easier to work with it that way. But aren't they cute? So this is his, like he shows one right side up and one upside down right there. That's an upside down one next to it. Maybe they were battling it out, right? Ah. Ooh, another thing that he shows on there, I'm going to show you real quick. Um, so there is some of the colors, like this one, have some white in them. So let me show you real quick, like here. See? So you see this color has white in it. And instead of this color, not so much. Tiny bit of white here and no white here. But this green right here, they call green number 3. Oh my gosh. So there's some white in it. Or you can take some of the white there if you want to. Actually, he does use white. I'll show you what he does with the white. So we're going to take a little bit of the Chinese white here, and we'll just find a spot where there isn't any paint and put a little Chinese white in there. He likes to use white on the shrimp in order to do some highlights. So I'm going to get the teeny tiny brush again, the detail brush number 2, Princeton, and let's do this and get some of the Chinese white on there. Again, I like this brush because there's not too much water on it, so you get more pigment, less water, right? And then what he does is come in on the side here, and he just puts some detail marks. You see the little white marks right there? And then he'll do something over here too, like he'll come in here and put in little highlights on these. So you see the little highlights there. It's not the same as using regular watercolors, right? It's a little bit different, the effects that he's going for. So, but you can use that white to pop in some highlights after the fact. So if I wanted to do that with the crab as well, I can just grab some white here again. With the crab, let's say that there's a little highlight up here and a little highlight over here. Maybe there's a little highlight on the top like that. So I'm adding some white highlights, but what I noticed in his picture he did was he used this green number 3. So this green number 3 is like a minty green. And it, look at that. Oh, well, so much for that. So you can put a little bit of this minty green out. Oh, it's beautiful. So it's sort of in the same family as the blues and greens over here. And then he took some of that and he popped that in on top because it has white in it. So he just went in here and was like, bam, bam, little bit of extra, extra, extra. Let's say that we put a little bit of it here, like that, a little bit of it here, just for something like something different, right? To go in and pop in a few details. Now, I just got a little dot came out of here because I had used a wet brush in here before, so there's like wetness. Like, dang it. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. You want to take that little dot and turn it into a feature, right? Instead of an error. As I always do with watercolors. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, there's a dot there. There are a couple of things I can do. I can just put some extra, let's grab a little bit of the dark green. So now I have dark green and light green on here. And then I'm going to do some more dots, right? Might as well. And add a little more water to it so I get some bigger dots. Yeah. Okay. Oh, now we're cooking with gas. So we just turn it into a feature, right? Then that way it doesn't look so out of place. There you go. So there is our little crab and our little shrimp. And this is where I did it on the watercolor paper. So I really like the feel of the watercolor paper. You get a little bit more of your typical watercolor movement when you do it on watercolor paper. Okay. You have a little more control when you do the shrimp on watercolor paper than you do on the rice paper. The rice paper is, I love working with the rice paper because it is a little more unpredictable. And so you have to kind of let loose and just let the painting happen. And you embrace the errors, right? When they occur. Um, you can be a little more controlled. Look, I just got dots on here. Whatever. It's all good. Right. But you can do it with your watercolor brushes, or you can use your quill brush like I showed you before, a quill brush like this on the watercolor paper. You can use your regular watercolor brushes, but I prefer a quill brush or a Chinese brush even on the watercolor paper. Okay, that's how I did it. So I want to thank you for joining me for this part of the show. And that was the instruction how to paint shrimp and a crab. So some undersea creatures using the Chinese watercolors and Chinese brushes. So I want to thank you for joining me for that.